Okay, welcome to this board recap. My name is Michelle Williams. I am the president of the Houston Education Association. We are an affiliate of the Texas State Teachers Association and the National Education Association. And if you are watching live, thank you for tuning in. You can watch this on the replay if you want to watch replay because if I'm not mistaken, and Elon Musk didn't mess with it. These live streams do not, if you're watching on Twitter, because I'm never going to call it X. If you're watching on Twitter, you can go to our YouTube channel, Houston Education Association. All you have to do is do a search in the search bar, and you can watch it whenever you feel like or when you have time. So thank you for tuning in. And if you have any comments, you can drop them in the comment section. I'm live streaming from on X, on Twitter, on Facebook, and I've shared it to a couple other places. So if you're doing that, go ahead and leave those comments in the comment section. If you're interested in becoming a member of the Houston Education Association, you can go to www.mytsta.org, and I'm dropping that link in. Let me add this to the broadcast. That's www.mytsta.org. I don't know why it's coming up like that. I should put it up here. www.mytsta.org. So, if you're interested in becoming a member, you can always go to that link and sign up to become a member. If you're on YouTube or Facebook, look for the link in the comment section. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started because I don't want to be on here long. I started late. I was kind of tired earlier today from attending a Teach Plus event, and that was interesting. It really was. Guess yours truly, Sandy Massey, was there, spewing propaganda, whatever they do, whatever. It ain't even worth talking about. So before we get started, I'm going to start with the teacher and TEI in Dallas ISD. So for those of you all, let me move this down. This is the Dallas ISD resource page. Now, people can say, what they want to say about, oh, teachers don't want to be evaluated. That's not true. We have an evaluation system. It's horrible, and it doesn't assess anything. And then you have a lot of people in um, administrative roles who don't know anything. So, yeah, it's just horrible. So, but anyway, they have the same breakdown that he's trying to bring to HISD. And I'm telling if you're watching this and you serve on an SDMC committee, that's called a site-based decision-making committee, vote no against this mess. So it's the same old rhetoric that they've been trying to get from under in Dallas ISD. Then they have student experience surveys. Yeah, why would you give a survey to a third grader? I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. It's ridiculous. And this is the same company that we're using, Panorama. It's all the same. And many of the teachers in Dallas ISD hated IE experienced teachers because it does nothing for us. It does nothing. And I've already proven the research on teaching experience matters. This pushes experienced teachers out of the classroom. I don't agree with anything Ed Trust says or does for certain reasons because an ex board member actually is a part of that and I don't trust her. But one of the things that was on the slide, and I know she doesn't believe it, she talks about black and brown kids and equity because she never even talked about black kids, not once, in HISD while she was on that board. So it's really interesting to see that. But it says that you should have more experienced teachers with the type of children that we have in the demographic that we serve. But yet, Mr. Miles goes against every kind of research there is because he talks to a prediction ring. Like, yeah, doesn't make sense. But anywho, if you get a chance, let me see if I can pull this up. Um, Sometimes this thing, okay, very good. See if I can get, okay. I'm going to drop the link if you want to look at this and make any notes. And I'm a big believer, um, a firm believer that you should read for yourself. So there's the link, and it's all the same. Look at student learning objectives, all the same, all of it. But anyway, moving on. Here we are, board meeting. And this is the reason why we're here. So I'm going to go to my speech. I'm going to start off with that one because I like listening to the public comment. It's great. Like I love it. It's funny, especially this guy in the red. His was great. So let me.
Community and our city.
Yeah, nobody wants to hear from him.
I think where we're at in the biotechnology industry right now is a little bit where the semiconductor industry was 20 or 30 years ago.
Oh, this is the wrong one. Let me see. Let me grab the right one. I put January 16th. Okay, let me grab this, put this in here. I don't know how that one got in there. There we are.
And such behavior will be given one warning, and if the behavior is repeated, they will be asked to leave the meeting. We have 79 speakers who will be limited to 1 minute each per board policy, as we have more than 30 people signed up to speak this evening. We ask that you please stay on topic. And
Happy Saturday, I'm KHU 11 meteorologist Chris Ramirez. Roadways dangerously cold, and definitely the risk for hypothermia is going to be there if you are out and about in the morning hours of Sunday unprotected. So looking tonight's forecast, mostly clear, temperatures falling through the night.
We're not doing well. Here it is.
bathroom. You would think you would follow your own procedure.
Okay, so this is little
I
girl.
want to thank you all for your service, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for your support of our kids. The Spark Parks are amazing places for them.
Yeah, HISD doesn't
Before we
keep
begin
them
to hear
up.
speakers to agenda items, I want to note that the board is postponing discussion and action on the second readings of board policies BE local and BED local, which relate to public participation in board meetings. The policies are not in this month's agenda. The committee needs more time to consider them, and we'll be bringing those back in the future. In addition, we will not be considering agenda item 7, approval of proposed revisions to board policy CH local, purchasing and acquisition, first reading tonight. We will now hear from our registered speakers. We'll begin with public officials, followed by student speakers, both in person and on Zoom.
I'll move that up. This little girl was good.
Speaker that I have that is present is Eliana Gottlieb. Yes, ma'am.
Earlier this week, we learned HISD's state-appointed superintendent, Mike Miles, spent $870 million over a 16-month period without the appointed board's approval. And can I just say, for a group of people who are so hung up on following procedures like carrying a traffic cone to the bathroom, you would think you would follow your own procedures when spending almost $1 billion. If you want the trust and partnership of the community, you have to be fair. You have fired teachers, principals, and administrators for much less. When asked by the media if any employees have been disciplined or fired because of this incident, Mike Miles said, "Not yet." Superintendent Miles, you are in charge, and this is your responsibility. The buck stops with you, sir. Board members, please address this lack of oversight the same way you would at your businesses or jobs. Both you and the community know that a formal investigation is absolutely necessary for this kind of incident. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speakers that are student speakers, I believe are on Zoom. Is that right, Ms. Smith?
They were having problems with Zoom, so we're gonna
Adidas
move on.
Sage
But
Bender?
and Eagleton, let me see. Him, don't want to hear him.
Oh, we can't. Our next speaker is Carmen Nuncio. Ms. Nuncio?
Good evening. I had signed up to speak for item number 7. I'm glad you've pulled it, but I will tell you my recommendation. I think you need to roll it back to a $100,000 threshold requiring approval from the board. Trust is earned, not given. Clearly, this debacle is big enough that there needs to be a consequence. If your kid crashes the station wagon, you don't replace it with a Ferrari. Okay? At best, this is gross incompetence. At worst, it's chicanery. Until you have fully sorted that out and published a report on the website from an independent auditor showing this was a good faith mistake, roll back the spending authority. Otherwise, you are abdicating your financial stewardship responsibilities that you have. It is your job. You are in charge of the purse strings. Take charge now. Thank you.
So the reason why she said independent auditor is because the internal auditor gave HISD a clean bill saying that there were no issues, but then here we are, there are issues. And a key point that was raised in one of the speeches is that they knew about this before the bond. But guess what? They didn't say anything because they were hoping that the bond passed, which I knew it wasn't going to pass. So all of this stuff, they knew about it before the bond vote. So those are the type of issues that HISD has. And let me put in a note. If you want to file a complaint because of the $870 million, that's a governance issue. So you can send that to TEA. I have already filed my complaint, and I'm urging all community members to file a complaint with TEA. You also can file a complaint because of the Open Meetings Act violation. And I'll get to that late. That's on my personal Facebook page. You can go over there. I put the videos up so that you could see where Audrey Momony went into closed session for one item, came out of closed session with 3 decisions. That is violation of the Open Meetings Act. I put the policy, link to the policy, and the email of TA's complaint system. It doesn't have to be a long email. If you don't know what to say, please contact me or look on my Facebook page. I did post in the parent groups, CVP and supporters, my email from for HISD and the $870 million debacle. Moving on.
Our next speaker is Greg Courier. I'm sorry? Yes, number 7. Yes, sir.
Is my mic on?
Yes, sir.
The board's Community Engagement Committee report brags about supposedly engaging community members in addressing critical areas.
When the bond didn't pass, you said we didn't put kids first and that you were going to put them first. You can't put kids first when you are putting teachers last. We are trying so hard to work with you, but now I feel that we really need to try to get a superintendent that cares about our kids.
Thank you. Ms. Smith, are we? Okay, we're going to go to the student speakers. If you'll just give me one, we're going to do.
So I'm going to go to my speech.
Abdicating your financial stewardship responsibility.
Let me see.
When the bond didn't pass, you said we didn't put kids first.
There I go.
Keep all your passwords safe.
Let me go back. I don't know why I keep hitting that button. Here we are. Maybe because in my other one, I constantly, that button is for going forward. There I am.
Go ahead, ma'am.
And 25 years of certified current teaching experience. Mr. Miles says spending $870 million. That wasn't authorized by the board of managers was a good faith error. Do you really believe that? Mr. Miles has not only violated HISD board policy by authorizing purchases without board approval, because we know that procurement doesn't process purchase orders without a signature. His. Since he says that this is a good faith error, then is violating consultation policy a good faith error too? Or violating Texas Education Code by making major curriculum changes without teacher input? 1, 2? Or when he had the principals monitor the teachers when they were taking his survey so he could get his $126,000 bonus? Mr. Miles is in breach of contract. An elected board would have placed him on administrative leave by now. We've asked that his contract be terminated due to policy violations. And if you can't do that of elect.
Thank you. Our next speaker, Brianna Van Borsen. Yes, ma'am. Hold on, your mic's not on. Okay.
Good evening. I'm here tonight to speak on the subject of mishandled fiscal.
So this is Miss Carol.
Systemic 16-month.
Come to the bathroom.
She's the one who was arrested. Let me see her speech, if I can get it right. There it is.
Missed last month is because my kid got kicked off of United Healthcare because there's no place in Houston that United Healthcare will cover to send him to therapy.
And that's a good point because Miles has put teachers in HISD on United Healthcare, and it's the worst plan. HISD teachers have not been on United Healthcare, I want to say since I can't even remember, because it's a horrible plan. And then here we are. He doesn't want to have consultation, but we're taking care of that. But he wants to not answer questions as to how we got here and how we can get out of this contract for United Healthcare. So we're working on forcing his hand because that is board policy and he's violating it to meet with us.
And now Mike Miles has gotten all the teachers to be on United Health. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, your time is up. Ma'am, thank you. Our next speaker is Sarah Terrell. Yes, ma'am.
So she's a retired CPA.
You are being told to sweep potential fraud under the rug. This was circumventing policy. This was not skipping a step. Emphasizing budget compliance, Miles insists that you have no responsibility for protecting us from waste and fraud. He tells you to reward his failure with even less oversight, and you know this is wrong. A systemic 16-month error in cash disbursements is likely a material weakness. It reveals a serious weakness in the control environment. If the tone at the top is that compliance with financial controls is not important, the entity is open to fraud. This is how you get a control failure that lasts 16 months. This is how you get Enron. Groupthink sets in, and people lose their critical, ethical perspective. You have fallen prey to groupthink. Miles subdues you with a limited audit that Mrs. Elizondo refers to as, it did come back, it.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Our next speaker is Ruth Hoffman-Ladd.
This is two likely material weaknesses. There we go. This is two likely material weaknesses in cash disbursements and in control environment. This is a fatal combination for fraud. On November 7th, Weaver and Tidwell signed a clean audit opinion for HISD. No material weaknesses or significant deficiencies. Yet, just 1 month later, admin had found this long-standing error, quantified it, and prepared 140 pages of retroactive approvals for our December consent agenda. Who knew about this and when did they know it? Your auditors should have been informed and given a chance to modify their opinion. How transparent was HISD with its auditors? Was this hidden from them? Was Terry and Miles, would Terry and Miles attest to their representation letters to the auditors? When did they know about this? Enron also failed because the auditors were actively overlooking accounting irregularities. How can public have confidence in your audits when they miss a problem this serious? Fire the liar.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Brianna Mohan.
I'm speaking this evening in honor of my late father-in-law, Ambikai Pakar Arnasalam, who was an excellent internal auditor and an excellent union organizer in Malaysia. The audit committee has not met since November 5th. Is a systemic failure in purchasing the process that is subject to the highest risk of theft and fraud
Not important enough for a meeting? Who authorized the audit that came out in perfect shape? It could not have been the audit committee. Where is this audit? When will your great transparency allow us to read it? Why did internal auditors not find this failure? Does this change the 2025 audit plan? There must be a closer look at purchasing and disbursement. Yet Miles' solution is for you to sweep it all away, sign off on contracts retroactively, and increase.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next speaker is Ruth Kravitz.
Good evening. I appreciate the work you do, and I look forward to changes. How did the $870 million in unapproved spending go unchecked for 16 months? Why did this come to light publicly after the bond election and right after HISD got its clean audit opinion? Where were the internal controls? As Maya Angelou said, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. If this system's failure had happened under the HISD elected board, the TEA would have imposed serious consequences, but now TEA is silent. This error persisted so long that it's clear that there were no backup controls. As required by your own LSG governance framework, control should have detected this. You should share publicly how and why everything has failed. Your first step is to publicly stop calling it an oversight or saying that there was no
Thank you. Our next speaker is Karina Casada. Yes, ma'am. It's on? I think so.
Rick Campo says that procurement is complicated and mistakes were made. He looked into people's eyes and there was no malintent. All's well. His tone from the top minimizes compliance with controls and policy and tolerates incompetence in procurement. Mr. Campo is actually quite fraud-friendly. He would never be so merciful in his own company. The responsible employees would be fired. But Campo is happy to pave over Miles's and Terry's failures with retroactive approval of $870 million in contracts with no discussion, an astronomical amount, 40% of our annual budget. Our money is not worth protecting. Mr. Martinez says it's not a board issue. He appears to believe the board has no fiduciary responsibility. The massive failure is an operational challenge that Miles will fix. Protecting our tax dollars is not his concern. Our board operates under the old motto, good enough for government work.
Our next speaker is Tracy Riley.
Miss Riley?
I'm 27, she's 26.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. Ms. Candido?
We're on? Okay, this is a procurement failure where the risk of fraud is highest. This deliberate mistake persisted unchecked for 16 months. Miles's very first ask was to increase the unsupervised spending authority from 100,000 to 2 million. He wanted the monthly agenda not to show what he was doing. Miles hid $817 million in contracts and also hid the fact that he was not getting them internally vetted or bid. Cooperatives were a useful loophole in the approval process, more than a mistake.
And the reason I'm showing this is because I want you all to understand there were procurement issues in Dallas ISD as well. This is nothing new. Let's be clear. A zebra doesn't change its stripes. Neither does someone who, does some not so good things when it comes to procurement. If you don't know what procurement is, that is just vendor awards and contracts. He had issues. Jim Terry, you can research it. This is not fact. This is not fiction, it's fact. He was escorted from Dallas ISD out of their administrative building. So they had financial issues after Miles left. This is nothing new. Everywhere he goes, even in Third Future, he doesn't know how to manage money. There have been reports that His employees have gone in third future without being paid. Like, it's ridiculous. He is no businessman. He leaves a trail of destruction and debt, and that's what he's going to do in HISD. But here's the thing: the board of managers don't understand that their reputations are done. They are done in Houston. Some of them, Cassandra, yeah, Rolando changed his tune and hit that no button. It's too late. He made that ignorant comment to the press talking about it's not a board issue. Are you freaking kidding me? Then what are you up there for? This isn't no lemonade stand. You're the governing body of the Houston Independent School District, governing $2.2 billion. And like, he wants to treat it like he's selling candy at one of the campuses. It's really ridiculous.
This was circumvention of controls. Now he insists you make the loophole permanent with yet another policy change. This situation is ripe for contract steering. Take outreach strategies, the $1.6 million consultant used for the bond election. It seems unlikely you'd choose that from a cooperative stock list. Could HISD have placed that vendor on the list itself, then chosen it? That would be contract steering, and that is fraud. Fire Mike Miles.
Our next speaker is Amanda Parrish. I'm sorry, Tracy Ryan.
Thank you. Good evening. A review is not an audit. Everyone up here professionally knows that. A real audit would explain what went wrong, how this was discovered, and why it went undetected for 16 months. An audit should include the review of each of the $870 million contracts, a sample of other purchases to ensure admin identified all of them, and in what circumstances is it justified to purchase through co-ops rather than an internal HISD vendor bidding, and approval. A review of each agreement. Review the cooperative procedure for vetting vendors. Determine whether a member of the co-op can request to add vendors, and then choose them. What is in the best interest of the public? You say that it's not your board work, but your governance gives you points. How can we spend the children's money that doesn't go to them and have no review and call it not board work? Aspects of good governance: transparency, accountability, participation, rule of law, responsiveness, equity.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Louis DeCote.
Hi.
I'm sorry, Amanda Parrish.
Yep.
Yes, ma'am.
That's me. Okay. Hi, I'm Amanda Parrish, parent.
So I want to get to this guy. He
Taxpayer and community
was
member.
not happy
What to talk
in the
about
red
today
overalls.
was really hard to select. I am
Oh, the nurse
to
was
adapt
good
their
too.
approaches to meet others where they are.
Hold on, let me.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Edgar Izquierdo.
My name is Edgar Izquierdo. I have 2 children in HISD. I, as well as my brother and many of my family members, are graduates of HISD, as many of your board members are as well. We are an example of successes. I ask you, the board managers, to hold Mr. Miles accountable. We can't do it, the community here can't do it, but you can. Relationships among teachers are lost. Teachers fear retribution. Teachers do not have the flexibility to make learning fun, which disinterests the students. My son comes home crying with anxiety over the pressure from testing. Our principal no longer makes time to engage with the parents. I ask you, board members, do your job, hold them accountable.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jessica Campos. Ms. Campos.
And I knew that I would protect my kids, that I would give my life for my kids, and I'm pretty sure many of you have had that dream for your kids too. What I wasn't counting on was that there would be adults like you that would work systematically to dim their light, and to silence their mother. I was so sure that I would be able to follow that dream because I am their mother. And I was sure that I would not fail them the way the adults in my life failed me. I didn't count on you adults. I have another dream now, though. I have a new dream. That parents, moms, dads, students, teachers, and everyone stand together against this common enemy that we have, you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Darcy Larota.
Now, this is a nurse that used to work in HISD.
The United States spends the most on health care, yet produces some of the worst results. Therefore, it's unsettling that Mike Miles features our inefficient, mostly privatized healthcare system as a model for public education. Review the data regarding pay-for-performance programs in hospitals. You'll see that they have mixed success rates, with key studies showing minor and only short-term improvements. Miles' analogy, teachers are like surgeons, is also off the mark. Teachers are like nurses. They're both frontline workers, helping people directly. They're both problem solvers who adapt their approaches to meet others where they are, and both do hard jobs under tremendous pressure for not enough pay. Additionally, in our healthcare system, the insurance companies control the purse strings, dictate what treatments are performed, and greatly impact how clinicians work and patient outcomes. It's obvious that Superintendent Miles is more like a health insurance CEO, useless and despised by everyone.
Our next speaker is Brandy Dowda. Ms. Dowda?
Good evening.
Did I miss
I am
my
Brandy
girl?
Dowda, a member of the community, and I am addressing Agenda Item 9. $870 million in perpetuation.
Okay, here's my
Our
guy.
wish is that we didn't have to spend way.
Hold on, your mic's not on. Okay.
Good. Over to ask their opinions. You disingenuously cherry-picked data to push your bogus narrative. I have a dream that soon this sham administration is gone, and the phrase Board of Trustees regains its intended meaning.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Eduardo Brito.
Now, he had a powerful speech.
Is my mic on?
Yes, sir.
Okay. First of all, I detest your sentiment from the election, don't play politics with our kids. Understand that you being here is playing politics with our kids. Continuously ignoring the public through your totalitarian rule is hurting our kids. Kids are massively underserved and sped because of you. Your colleague cries about spending too much time at the meetings because of complaints about issues that are caused by this board. Our wish is that we didn't have to spend way more time than that trying to protect our kids from the inadequacy of this board and all the chaos it's caused. Uncovering all the malicious decisions you've made are already coming to light with your good faith errors. The Rick Campo decision will be next. I stand in solidarity with everyone that wants you out. The kids you're harming with your tactics of ignoring, framing information, and attacking advocates for our children, such as Miss Castro Blanchard Elementary. Every first letter of these sentences in this speech before my solidarity statement spells out the words you mouthed to a parent as they walked away, which was caught on video. You, sir.
Our next speaker is Daniel Santos.
Yeah, he said, you, sir, are the good faith error. And they had some other ones, but I want to get to what part of. So we're going to get, the community engagement piece. Yeah. So, now this was the funny part. Cassandra and Bandy said that, we spoke to one of the doctors who had a child at an NES school. Girl, please, no, there is not. And I would bet my life on it that there is not one physician in Houston that has their child at an NES school. Who in their right minds? And, I would assume that physicians who have gone to school for 6 years would have their children at a school where they get worksheets. Child, please. not happening. I spoke with a group of educators today because I'm find out what's going on in this new 25. Yeah, that's the new initiative. So I don't know much about it, but they were saying that the English, um, they're pushing this NES. It's like a cancer. And a cancer that's destroying everything. You know what cancer does? It destroys tissue and all of that stuff. That's what this NES is doing. So they were saying that the department chairs had to go and visit the NES schools. They were mortified. Said that the teachers looked unhappy and disgruntled. The kids looked sad, and yeah, yeah, that's what's happening. It's turning into a graveyard. And these people, like Sandy Massey was at that Teach Plus event today, talking about how they've done. Girl, please. She wouldn't even come on the side where I was. I was like, yeah, whatever. But anywho, moving on. This community engagement piece was ridiculous. And these two people, that's Cassandra. For those of you all who are new, and watching this live stream. That's her who told that false. Yeah, it was false. I want the name and the name of the child that said that. Like, girl, please get out of here. Ain't nobody trying to send their kids. And let's be clear, they are the reason why the magnet schools are protected and they keep changing it. Cassandra, Audrey, board president, um, Adam Ravon, all of them, Michelle Cruz Arnold, their kids are in magnet schools. They're protecting their kids from NES. Like, come on now. They all have children. The only person whose kids don't attend HISD is Angela Flowers. Let's be clear. They are protecting magnets because their children attend the magnet schools. They lied. Michelle Cruz Arnold lied at the beginning of the year saying, I really would I'd let my child go to an NES school. Girl, please. You are not allowing, because trust me, when I get to the part about the magnet part, yeah, you're going to see their tone change. So let's see. But before we get to that, yeah, I'm not trying to hear Kristen Holt. Yeah, nope, not trying to listen to that. Because she don't do nothing but tell lies about data. She's the data sorcerer. Okay, I think this is it.
That reads that what you just said. So you're talking about what is a stakeholder engagement? Yes. Chief Hull actually.
No, we're not trying to be bothered. Let me see.
The view that no, that's really a decision that needs to be made by the administration, and so we chose not to put that into the constraint, understanding the concern, which is parents want to know what's going to happen to their school next year. So I don't know if you want to say anything, or the committee wants to say anything more about it. Committee members?
I think to add to that sentence, I think it was, we know the community wants to know, but we also know that the administration needs to be responsive. And in the case of NES, there's a responsiveness, timeliness that I appreciate. And that I take away from the discussion as being significant.
Okay. Again, here to what is it that we're talking about in terms of what are the programs that are changing that are then going to trigger this obligation? Okay.
So this is the magnet part.
The work to meet the board constraint. These are the 3 items that are going to be done. Again, this is what we talked about a moment ago with Chief Hull. These are the things that are going to be reported on. Stakeholder engagement, impact to the programming or the school options, including the impact on board-adopted outcome goals, enrollment, and budget, which were items that this committee thought were very important, and then any related or potentially related research-based studies, which we talked about last time. Okay. Recommendation 4, other policy impacts, because EHBJ and and this policy, AE local, are intertwined in one regard.
So for those of you all who are just tuning in, they're going over protecting their children's schools from NES. And we ought to call this constraint 3, the board of managers constraint. That's when we start going and talking about the constraints, say constraint 3, board of managers constraint, AKA, because they are protecting their own children from NES. But yet they'll basically throw other people's children through the wolves in this garbage system that they have. It's the system that those parents are running from NES. And you know how I know? Because the decline in Black children, when Sandy Massey was at Teach Plus today, 22% of HISD's children are Black. That is down from, I want to say, 39 when they came. So we've lost a lot of Black children, but see, they're not saying that. 22% of them are Black. And if I'm not mistaken, it was in the 30s when the takeover happened. Those Black parents are, if they can, they are getting their children out of HISD. That's what those numbers say.
Modification of the magnet program, we talked about this issue in terms of timing of when the change can actually occur, and it will be the next academic year. Okay? Other policy impacts. There was a question about major modification, minor modification, and a question and request that the committee can consider and come up with a clarification of what a major modification is. We've done that here. So this is an update from the last version that you all saw in December. And it really is intended to say if it's going to undermine the integrity of the magnet program, which the administration has added some additional language around what does it mean to modify or undermine the integrity of the magnet program, this is intended to clarify that so that there's not any difference in understanding. Okay? This particular change that we see on slide 14 is a clarifying term that was added by the administration to speak to, in the establishment of a magnet program, what is expected in terms of community involvement. And it sets a bar of what must happen. And so that was a welcome change, and the committee considered it, and we're happy with that change. All right, this is a pickup by the board services. Thank you for this. We needed to update this portion of EHBJ local to make it consistent with our current status in terms of our vision statement. This just had some old language in it that needed to be updated. So there's no material change here.
Yeah, and they really think they're doing something. Like, it's really ridiculous. I can't stand it any longer. Like, these people don't have a clue. And to say that she actually has a law degree, it's really disappointing. Like, I don't know how she is as an attorney, but it's disappointing. Rolando Martinez works in HR. He's disappointing. Adam Ravon, beyond disappointment. Cassandra Ozan Bandy has a civil engineering degree, disappointment. Michelle Cruz Arnold, I guess she got her PhD, disappointment. And Janet Linda Garza, yeah, she just pretty much wants to be anything because she couldn't even win an election to get on the HISD board. So she's just happy. Y'all should see her, how excited she is to ask a question or to even answer a question. But yeah, she's basically sloppy seconds and is just happy to be there. They are disappointments. Angela Flowers, she was one of the board of managers that was harassing me on social media. Yeah, she was one that didn't understand that board members, aka board of managers, can't interact with employees and get in our business. Yeah, she did, but she found out that that was a thing. She was a disappointment from what I understand when she worked in HISD. That's what I was told, not what I know about her, but I do know that she found out that she can't bother any of the HISD employees. She knows that now. Disappointment. All of them are just basically disappointments. All they do is fulfill their own interests. They don't care about the public. They don't care about anything. That's why, let me go ahead and plug it in again. File a complaint against the board of managers. You have two things you can file a complaint against: governance and controls for procurement. They allowed him to violate it. And the other one is open meeting act. So they were in closed session, went in for one reason, came out with 2, 3 other decisions, and talked about things in closed session. Complete violation. You want to check out those on my Facebook page. I have the complaint, email address to TA, along with the videos, because I don't want you to believe me. I want you to see it for yourself. And I clipped out one where she went in closed. We're going to talk about this item in closed session. Come out from closed session. Oh, we have 3 different decisions made behind closed doors. And the people, here's what irritates me about people. Sarah Terrell, yeah, I was there. I was sitting on the front row. The video that you saw, I was live streaming because I wanted to see the vote. But what sent her over the edge is that they went into closed session and talked about selling the properties. Yeah, it was on the agenda, but that's not why they went into closed session. And it was aggravating and irritating because they are breaking the law. You can't go into closed session, talk about what you want to talk about, say, hey, here's the results. That's not how it works. They know that. So file the complaint against them, please, and thank you, because it makes no sense. We are tired of the board of managers. It's time for us to start making noise about them with Miles. When Miles leave, he need to take all of them with him because they are a waste of time. The most disappointing person is Rolando Martinez. He used to be a DAC member, but he just has sold his soul for what? To be shunned for the rest of his life. His kids are going to be talking about, and other kids are going to tell him, you know, I remember your daddy was on that board of managers and he did nothing. He sold the school district out, and that's why it is like it is now. That's their legacy. That's what's going to be their legacy. But I digress.
It's really just updating, but we wanted to highlight it so the board could see the change.
Not interested.
Recess to closed session at 7:40 p.m. on January 16, 2025.
All right, so that's the part. Closed session. It was real brief, but she gonna say we're gonna talk about an item.
We are prepared to submit our impact reports for all changes.
Yeah.
Yes, I think so. We are very much on the same page. So I think if nobody has any questions, we'll take a, yes, ma'am.
The only question I have is the language, the last bullet on page 7, any part of a group of students that is impacted in a way that both the board and the superintendent agree is significant. I just want to raise the point that if the superintendent does not think it's significant and we don't know about it, there's still this wiggle room. How are we both going to agree to something every time something's going on when he's working, and that's not our job.
We're going to communicate. I think
we're going to communicate. I guess that's how y'all communicated with that $870 million that was spent in contracts with no board oversight.
There might be something outside these bullets that we still believe is significant. Maybe for some reason the school has a history of this program, and it's not 30% or 10% of a class. It's 8 students out of 25 or something like that. And so we say this is significant anyway. So I mean, it's hard to imagine something that it'll be an exception.
My only question is, I could see how you could reasonably think that, but what if a board member disagrees with your estimation and then doesn't know why you brought it to us? I'm saying, well, we're saying both.
Yeah.
If we disagree with what you do and then after the fact come back to you saying we don't agree, that seems a little problematic.
Both means both. So we would have to communicate well and explain the rationale. If it doesn't meet the threshold of the others, then the default is.
So here's that what's irritating and doesn't even make sense. You don't represent the board. I mean, the Mike Miles. Mike Miles is their employee. Oh, so we both have to agree. No, you don't have to agree. If you think it's significant, he needs to fall in line. That is called governing. They're trying to play pity pat with him. Well, he has to agree to it. And if we don't, that's ridiculous.
It's not a significant change.
Okay, yeah. And I think, yeah, to your point, it has to be both parties believing that it's significant. So, and I think Chief Hull talked about this last time, and because you're actually receiving requests from principals to change programs. So if something comes to your
let's be clear. Principals are not changing programs. That stuff is coming from his lackeys and his administration who are telling principals to do that. Just like they told Carnegie's principal to go over there and say, let's raise the threshold. Never has been a problem until they got here. So no, they are not. Trust me, they're not asking for program changes. They wasn't asking for them prior to these people showing up, and trust me, they're not asking for them now.
attention that you think it doesn't meet these specific requirements, but let's go talk to the board and see if this is something that they want to hear a report on. Probably at that point you're doing the research anyway, so you probably do a report, is my guess.
That's correct, and I think
And it's not correct. They're not telling the truth.
Whatever.
Whatever. I'm sick of this. Okay, so let's get to the point where
Actually receiving requests from principals.
So listen here.
Motion passes 9 in favor. Thank you very much. Okay, we are going to move on. Our next motion that's...
Hold on. Let me go back a little bit.
That's not our job.
We're going to communicate. I think
that's not our job.
We're going to communicate.
Let me get it. I'm trying to get it on where she goes into closed session.
I just want to raise the point that
actually receiving requests from principals to change programs. So if something...
This is closed session.
Oh, I need to hit my computer.
And she's going to say item. So notice when they come back. That's
all right. The motion is to approve the changes to AE local. Please vote. Motion passes 9 in favor.
Oh,
thank you very much.
I'm not surprised.
Okay, we are going to move on. Our next motion that's needed is with respect to EHBJ local, which we just talked about as well. It's also been pulled from the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve agenda item 8, proposed revisions to board policy EHBJ local, special programs, innovative and magnet program, second reading? A motion by Ms. Arnold and a second by Ms. Mendoza. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
Nine zero.
9 in favor, none opposed. Okay, next may I have a motion to approve agenda item 9, ratification of cooperative vendor awards from August 11th, 2023.
This is listen to it.
We're going to go clerk. We will start. I want to get a motion. We've got a motion by Ms. Lindner and a second by Mr. Campo. We are going to move to closed session to discuss this item.
See, discuss this item.
At this time, the board will recess to closed session under Chapter 551 of Texas Government Code, Open Meetings Act, subsections 551.004 through 551.08.
So this is important. This is a little education piece for you all watching. She said we're going into closed session. And the policy states that you have, if the announcement is proper, she said, okay, she did her little spiel, going into closed session for this item, i.e. the approval of these unapproved purchase orders that were spent. That's where they're going. So they edited it, which is great because it goes straight back into what she says when they come back. Item, here we go.
9. Should board final action, vote, or decision on any matter considered in the closed session be required, such final action, vote, or decision shall be taken at the open meeting covered by this notice upon the reconvening of this public meeting or at a subsequent public meeting of the board upon notice thereof. This board has recessed to closed session at 7:40 p.m. on January 16, 2025.
Here we go, coming back. Let me go. Oh, this is YouTube. This is not the other one. So they're in closed session for, let me see. Let me find when they come back. Okay, here we are. Coming back. They're coming back in. Now, notice 3 hours ago, because they didn't come back until 10:14, she said, we're going in closed session for this item. That's fine. Watch what happens when she comes back. And watch Miss Terrell's, her response to it. And the reason why she responded that way is because they weren't supposed to be discussing that. And she knew that that was an Open Meetings Act violation.
Okay. All right. Are there any other discussion items that the board wishes to?
Okay, so Janet Linda Garza, she tries to explain away the issue.
And just another clarifying point, the audit committee requested the internal auditor to conduct the review. The internal auditor.
Now, mind you, this is the same internal auditor that didn't find the first mistake. Yeah, that's the same that person. They're asking Mr. Mistake to find a mistake that was made. Yeah, make that make sense. Oh, okay.
Being RSM, the company that is external to the district.
Yes, it is rather confusing, but it can be. So thanks for clarifying. The audit committee asked our internal audit team to do that.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's move forward. If there are no more comments, there's a motion and a second by Ms. Lindner and Mr. Campo. Can we vote?
So notice Miss Terrell, she's right here in the front, just sitting there. Nothing's going on. Watch what happens.
We have one.
Let me stop it right there. So you see, Mr. Rolando Martinez changed his tune. Adam Ravon, what they're trying to do, since they know that they're in trouble, they allowed Miles to run up $600 million in debt. And this is a mess because I'm going to go back into HISD archive videos, and it's happened when they were taking the controls away. We told them, or they told them, because I wasn't talking about finance. They told them that they needed to leave the controls in place. And here we are a year later. What they said was going to happen happened. And then they have egg on their face. The reason why they don't want the audit, because they are culpable. They caused this problem. Oh, we're going to trust the superintendent. No, the superintendent that has procurement issues from other school districts. That's a proven fact. He got all he could. Third Future Charter couldn't even pay back their own bond money. They didn't have the money. So this is who you're trusting. But hey, I digress.
Against, 7 in favor. I didn't read it fast.
And Cassandra, I'm assuming she abstained because procurement is her specialty. She knows about procurement. She said it a long time ago in a workshop. So I guess that was her trying to protect herself so she can say, what is it? She has deniability. I forgot the formal term. So she can say, oh no, I didn't vote for that. I abstained. Yeah, that's that gray area. They should not be able to abstain. That's yes or no. So Rolando Martinez put his name on it. Nope. She's like, oh, so when you ask her about that, go ahead and ask. She's gonna say, I didn't vote on that. I abstained. Okay, that's fine.
1 abstention on the ratification.
Watch this.
Okay,
this is
we're
your
gonna move
violation.
forward. The next item that we have is election of officers. Actually, let's do the consent agenda first. Do I have a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda by consensus? I have a motion by Ms. Cruz Arnold, or Dr. Cruz Arnold, and a second by Ms. Mendoza. Is there any discussion on the consent agenda items? No? Okay. Let's vote. Motion passes 9 in favor. Okay, the last item, we have a couple of things that came out of closed session. Who has the motion?
Okay, so you hear her. So I already told you, I said they went in for one item, and here she's on video saying that, oh, we have a couple of items that came out of closed session. So how? That is a direct violation of the Open Meetings Act.
Or motions, I should ask.
And watch Ms. Terrell.
Yes, yes, sir.
I have a motion with regard to employees.
Yes.
All right. I move that the board approves the termination of the probationary contract for the employee listed as teacher 4-A generalist employee ID 224380 on the personal agenda on the terms discussed in closed session.
So now, and here's the thing. So I guess they've been getting their behinds handed to them in legal because they're now using employee ID numbers. And here's the funny thing. If you want to know who they're talking about, like we have access to all HISD. All you got to do is take that number and plug it into the email system. Yeah. It's easy.
We have a motion by Mr. Martinez and a second by Ms. Lindner. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Eight in favor, 1 abstention. Motion passes. Next motion.
Yes, I move that the board approves the closed session personal agenda, including specifically that the board approves proposed terminations, non-renewals of continuing term, performance, and probationary contracts, and authorize the superintendent or designated to provide notice of same, that the board approves suspensions without pay for continuing term and probationary contracts, and authorize the superintendent or designated to provide notice of same, that the board voids term, probationary, and performance contracts, and authorize the superintendent or designee to provide notice of same, that the board approves withdrawals of contract recommendations, and that the board approves issuance of final orders on contract terminations and non-renewals.
And notice the difference. They said without pay. So what they're doing is setting HISD up for failure, because what's happening is they're going to not pay these people while they're in appeal, but then they still can get unemployment. Like, it's really dumb. It's just pay the people. So now, when and if they win their hearings, and because they're not going to fire black teachers anymore if they win their hearings, because the Department of Education is investigating HISD because of my complaint. Plus, the EEOC picked up my complaint and issued a charge of discrimination against HISD. So they're not going to, if they win their hearing. So now they're not paying the people while they're in appeal. So when they do, they have to retroactively pay these people. It makes no sense. It's really stupid.
As discussed in closed session, effective January 16, 2025.
A motion by Mr. Martinez. I have a second. Second by Mr. Campo. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion passes 9 in favor. Any other motions out of closed session?
Yes, please.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
I move that the board declares the Brookline facility, Chatham facility,
Here we
East
go.
Area office, Fairchild facility, Fawnwood facility, Grimes facility, Harper facility, Haviland acreage, Kirby and Orem acreage, North Forest acreage, North Forest Mesa Strip, Rhodes facility, Ryan facility, South Area office, South Bank acreage, Terra facility, and Tidwell acreage as surplus and authorized sales procedures.
Thank you. We have a motion. We have a motion.
There she goes. She said, why don't you sell Hattie Mae while you're at it? So they couldn't stop it rolling on YouTube. They edited it out on the HISD site, but it's still here.
Ma'am, please. Ma'am. Ma'am, this is a warning.
You are so disappointed.
This is your second warning, ma'am. Thank you. Please leave the building. As I directed earlier today, 2 warnings, and we're going to ask you to leave. Ma'am, please. Ma'am, thank you. I'm going to ask you to please leave the building, ma'am.
No! I paid for it! No!
Okay.
You're gutting the district. How can you do this? No, I'm not leaving.
So now you see why she was so upset. First of all, it was a blindside. Yes, it was a closed session agenda item, but that is not why they went into closed session. It wasn't to discuss that. And then, and I get it. I was angry, and I was sitting on this front row with them. And it just makes no sense. And then you have these people, like she said, gutting the district. They're gutting the district. They don't care about HISD. The only thing they care about is protecting their own children. They're not going to protect your children. If you think that board is there for you, then you're going to be disappointed, just like she felt when they said they were going to sell off these properties. And here's the thing, not only did they say they were going to sell the properties, they added other properties. which was blindsiding to the public. That's why you need to file the complaint. And that's why I filed it, because it makes no sense. And I know, please stop saying, well, TA, no. During the civil rights movement, let me give you all a bit of history. Wasn't born then, but I've read up on it. If the people during the civil rights movement was like, oh, they're not gonna do, well, what do you expect? Stop being a naysayer. It's not helpful to the people that are fighting. If you're gonna do something, file a complaint or don't say anything at all. We don't need that type of energy. We have to go through the grievance process. That is the way that the law is set up. You cannot file suit against any entity unless there is negligence or in death or something. But when you have complaints, you cannot file suit against HISD or any other school district until you have exhausted all of their grievance process measures. So if you're a parent looking at this, file the complaints. No longer can you be afraid, well, I don't want my principal. No, I get it. I don't want my principal either. But at the end of the day, we are here. We have to save a school district. And the only way we can do that is through complaints, so that if there is a suit, you have documentation that can be used in a suit. No documentation, no suit. So people that are saying lawsuit, 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 well, what are you going to say? Where's your paperwork that you address this issue with the board or with TEA? Nothing has really been filed with TEA as far as complaints about these board of managers. This is the first time. Like, it's time to start filing the complaints. We're working on complaints. I'm working on complaints with parents. You all need to file complaints. Keep filing them until something is done. Then you have your documentation to move it further if you choose to do so. HISD, and I want parents to understand, you all have a plethora of resources when it comes to human capital. And if you don't know what that means, human capital means like in people. You have attorneys. Miss Terrell is a CPA by trade. Use those things as weapons to fight against HISD. If you are an attorney, you all know this stuff. It's education. It's the same thing. And I'm here to help if you have issue understanding policy and how to make it make sense to represent yourself. You don't have to have an attorney to file a complaint against HISD. You can get somebody from your community to represent you. You don't have to do that. You do not have to be an attorney to represent yourself against HISD. And let's be clear, the attorneys that HISD hired and wasting money on, they're not even that good. So you can beat them with policy and documentation. We can do this, but not filing a complaint is a way to prolong this. And what you don't understand, when you file the complaint, you start getting media traction with it. That's how we beat this. And trust me, this is a marathon, not a sprint. These things are not coming overnight. But the more complaints you file and the more parent complaints, and then you take it and have an open hearing and invite the press. That is the playbook. You cannot not file complaints. I filed it with TEA. I'm urging you all to do that as well as I end this live stream and this recap. Next week, I will be here, live streaming again, talking about House Bill 3 and how it prioritized experienced teachers and how it gave teachers a raise, and how the Miles administration is trying to set us back by putting on pay for performance. We're going to talk about Dallas ISD more in depth. I'm trying to get my friends from NEA Dallas to come on and talk about their take on or opinion about the TI in Dallas. I want you to hear what he's trying to do in HISD from people, not me, because I've read up on it. I've talked to people, but I want you to hear from those people who you have who I've talked to, and get the information out. Be encouraged. I had some people uplift my spirit, because being an advocate for HISD is not easy work. It gets cumbersome. But when you tell people that you're doing a good job, I appreciate the parents that are showing up and fighting with me. I appreciate that, because it makes me fight another day, because doing this stuff on my own is hard. If you are a teacher watching this, become a member of the Houston Education Association at www.mytsta.org, and I will see you all next week for another informative live stream. Share this with a friend, get the word out. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.